Okay, guys, looks like just had a few more jump in. I see some people chatting. Somebody needed to sit down. Feel free to use that message chat here. Of course, I'm Michael Gandy. I'm the captain of this flight. My co-pilot, Michael Gaskill, developer programmer extraordinaire, is at my at the ready to take your questions during. So we wanted to start out first of all, as you can all imagine, this last week was a breakneck pace for us as far as a surge of mappings, which typically we were taking a day or two. We got an onslaught of well over 30, possibly 40 MLS mappings this week. Have a few more that are going to be finished tonight and tomorrow, but happy to tell you that all of those will be done by tomorrow. So what we did is we wanted to structure this. We've done some introductory webinars where we talked about the functions and the features. Certainly you can ask some questions generically about that. Grace, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, guys. Looks like the mic is live. I don't need to do any beatbox. If you can't hear any volume, might be a good idea to check your speaker volumes, check back in, check your sound, stuff like that. But anyways, we wanted to. There's a couple of webinars. We have about 3, 4, 5 hours of content on our YouTube channel, which you can always go to. I'll show you that in just a second. We're going to dive into analysis, though. We need to stretch out your statistical muscles and get you guys comfortable with the platform. There's a lot of you that have been calling us just a little nervous to engage. I understand. I've been banging around on this for a while. As I stated on the webinar earlier, I had the concept for this program about 5 years ago. We've been in development well over a year. I've been using it for about 8 months consistently. And that's important because this CU, whatever you want to refer to it as, was certainly not something that we planned on, and nor do we technically actually like launching our product during that rollout. We understand. I've been an appraiser for 26 years. There's quite a few of you that are calling in, scrambling for a solution, and that was not our intent to get this out there at that time. We wanted to give appraisers a quality product that they can understand, that is based on the gold standard method, that is totally competitive and relevant statistically if done in big data situations. I would argue sometimes better. And with some of the functionality in this platform, you just cannot do in any kind of program, regression-based or otherwise, scenario modeling, adjusting only. There's just so much flexibility in this platform. Does it take a while to learn? Absolutely. But it's better than taking 4 courses in statistics and trying to defend yourself on a regressionary tool, which are fine. We're not opponents to regression, but they do have arbitrary rules in place, confidence levels and stuff to deal with. We don't have that. We don't worry about the base or residuals because all the properties have a base. We isolate variables and we solve. Simple paired sales with the iterative method, which is nothing more than algebra. If you solve for X and Z, you can plug those numbers in and solve for Y. That's all it is. Sounds easier than it was to pull off. That's why we got a patent. So I can tell you that you can explain this. It's rational, it's reasonable, it's something that appraisers understand, and that's what we wanted to launch this tool. Also, to go back, you can see on the screen, I want to talk right now, we've had a deluge of people, appraisers, that are nervous about the mapping, the time it took us to do it. They're worried about the trial period. So we wanted to talk to you and let you guys know that, listen, we do not want you to buy this product out of a rush, out of a need. We understand that it's going to take some time to get used to. So as of now, don't worry about that trial period, because we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're actually not even going to think about starting the e-com side until March 2nd. So if you got other peers out there, you guys have at least 30 days before you might even get an email from us saying that, hey, we're going to start charging you at some point. We're doing that because I don't want anybody trying to latch on to this product because they think it's the only thing that they can do. I want you to learn it, and once you see the power and the flexibility in this, I'm certain that you'll get it. But we only want you to do it once you're comfortable and familiar. We realize there's a learning curve, so we're willing to give you that space. As an appraiser myself, I know you have plenty of options out there right now to test. But then again, in an ocean of all things regression, we're the only island sitting there with the different method based on the gold standard. So by all means, in a lot of cases, this program runs very similar complementary numbers to some good regression programs. Other times, we just beat the pants off them. Sometimes they solve for 3, 4 variables because of confidence factors. We might solve for 12. And, as far as CU goes, you've got some automatic robo-computer that's running an automated regression platform to analyze and look at your adjustments. And I assure you that there's nobody more professional than you. That computer does not have geographical competency like you. You need to flex your statistical muscles, and you need to get out there and support yourself, show your work, and then you can go ahead and let anybody that wants to show some combat, they can knuckle up and look at your data, because you are the professional, you are the expert, and no computer is ever going to replace that. So we think we give you the tools to do that, and we're going to run through some analysis today and kind of get into that. So anybody that's on here, we apologize for the deluge of MLS mappings. If you haven't been totally mapped yet, those should be done by tomorrow, the last batch. And don't worry about the trial offers. We are not even going to think about sending you a letter that we're going to even think about billing you till at least March 2nd. So you've got at least another month. We might give you notice at that point that you got another 14 days. We haven't even figured it out. What we do want you to do, though, is we only want you to purchase this product if you see the value in it, and I'm certain that you will. So you guys, if you have any questions during this, please don't hesitate to type in those messages. Michael's here. We'll be navigating through those. We'll stop intermittently to answer any. If you're a new user, basic beginner that hasn't viewed any of our webinars, we have an hour and 10-minute webinar on our YouTube channel. I'll show you that right now. If you go to the splash page at the very bottom, you will see a YouTube link at the bottom of any page, actually. There's some here that you don't need to worry about export setup. Here's a live one right here. This was a beginner. I mean, we went through the basic structure, features, and functionalities. That one I would actually choose second, the live webinar recorded from last week. There's one that is even better right here, GandySoft PAIRS and features and functions. An hour and 10 minutes. This one goes over the basics, discusses some of the features that you have available at your fingertips in this platform, which some of the things are absolutely wild. Things like scenario modeling, building into your model, things that you just cannot do in regression. Regression, you get a bad number, you're stuck with it. Either kick that variable or, there's nothing you can do. Reload your data, maybe do another set of data, this, that, and the other. I'm going to show you in one of the analysis how our platform hangs when you can prove an adjustment just maybe by different means, and you can actually build that into your model. So it's pretty powerful. Now that's certainly advanced features. I don't want to scare you guys to think that this is too advanced, because it's not. Now if you're in a rural market, limited data, yeah, it's going to be more challenging. Any method is going to be more challenging. Law of numbers always applies when you're talking about statistical support. Math is not statistics. Just because you can cherry pick 2 or 3, paired sales, which is why paired sales has had such a bad rap over the last few years, and get an adjustment that, makes them work for those comps, doesn't mean that they're statistically supported when you actually do more of a comprehensive analysis of a larger swath of data. So that's important. And also, we're going to start off and talk about some stuff, but I sent you guys all some data files in your email. Hopefully you guys have downloaded these so that you guys can play along. This is for the people that don't have mapping yet. You know what? All those files, we're going to upload them all, go through them together. They're all going to function when you choose the source as Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtor. So the reason we want to do that is we want to get you outside of your shell, get you to start understanding what modeling is, statistical, looking at things, understanding what the objective is when you're talking about comprehensive statistical analysis. You can't use a micro approach to a degree. Your paired sales analysis and your comprehensive statistical analysis may not match your 1004MC. Now, if you have, in an ideal situation, a big tract environment, healthy data, your 1004MC, you got 150 150 sales in your exact submarket for your 1004MC information, well, then by all means, you get those kind of numbers, you can target just that submarket. But I'm going to show you some things in here today that you don't want to be too restrictive, and I'll tell you why. You're making it harder on yourself. Can you accomplish the task with limited data? Absolutely. We've got crazy good results on 13 properties. We've got crazy good results on 5. That doesn't mean that that's going to happen all the time. You may struggle with one of 30. And I'll show you some today that are easy peasy, and then I'll show you one where we had to whip out the pencil for 10 minutes and do another method. And I dare anybody to call into question the results in that model after the end of the day. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a slide over here to my MLS. And remember that, please remember this one statement. Michael likes to live by it. It's analyze your market, not your comps. Analyze your market. It's important. Now, of course, you don't want to rope in, Rodeo Drive and Watts. But that's not a comparison you want to do. We get that. But overall, I'm going to show you some data collection tips that are prudent and pragmatic, real world stuff. And we're actually going to go through test 1. I don't know if any of you guys were on the earlier webinar. If not, if you were, I apologize, but we're going to go through 1 again. Next week I'll go ahead and have a bunch of different ones so I can surprise you. But for now, let's talk about, I was doing this was 2 days ago, a 1,460 square foot townhouse built in 1981 in Henderson. And I want to give you guys an overview of the Las Vegas Valley in case you don't know it. I know that a lot of Vegas people are on board, not a lot, but a few I see. We got Sacktown, we've got some DC Metro. Hello to all of you guys. We got Tucson, we got Reno. Anyways, here's an overview of the Las Vegas Valley. You got North Las Vegas, you got the Las Vegas Valley, and then you got Henderson, which is where mine is. Suburban township, flows with it in a lot of ways. This part over here is called Western Henderson, and down to here. This is all newer, a lot of master plan stuff going on over here. This is called Western Henderson, but I'm over here in what I like to call Henderson proper. The old Henderson township, the dam how home sites were in here for the old construction years and years and years ago of the Hoover Dam, Boulder Dam, however you refer to it now since the name changed. But nonetheless, I'm just going to define to you guys, and the people that are here in Vegas, I want you to pay attention. So I've known people, I've lived here all my life. I've known people that have lived in what I call Henderson proper all their life. And I'm talking about people that have moved 3, 4 different times to different areas. I have a friend that lived here, lived in Foothills South, and now he's all the way over here into Foothills North. The point I'm trying to get to you is define your market area properly for a comprehensive analysis. And in this case, I'm telling you that Henderson proper is truly, if someone wants to live in the downtown Henderson Township, I'm telling you that this is the market area that they will deem as comparative or competitive in location. Now I'm going to show you where my townhouse, a skinnier area if you want for your 1004MC. The trick is you're now being required to show comprehensive statistical analysis. Doesn't matter what method you want to use. If you're a regression fan, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. If you understand it, if you can explain it, if ever asked about it, that's fine. Let me tell you that about regression too. There's one squirrely product out there right now that sounds really sexy. Automated. Everybody loves automatic. I mean, good Lord, that's got to be the best hook ever. Who doesn't want to push a button and there it goes for you? Now, when you consistently solve for 2, 3 variables and you absolutely have no basis of knowing what's going on in that black box magic computer, just let me tell you, that is a dangerous thing. If you guys want to look into regression products, David Braun has an awesome one. He's an appraiser for 30 years plus at AVT. StatWing is out there with a great user interface, still regression based, but certainly there are, if you're looking for a regression solution, maybe another solution in addition to pairs. Listen, no one solution is a magic bullet, serves you well 100% of the time. That's just a function of data. Variances, deviations in data. Unfortunately, if it gets noisy, in a lot of different methods to find that. Some methods may work better than other. But I'd like to steer all of my peers away from the one that sounds sexy. Trust me, that's a dangerous that's a dangerous method that you're really playing fast and loose if you're doing that. So I'm right here. I'll just kind of give you an idea. I'm right here off of Ann. A little old, 1981, 2-car garage, 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. But this is my area. And trust me, I'm one of the oldest developments in Old Henderson proper as far as townhouse condo with a garage feature. I do think the garage feature makes a difference. So, and again, that's an area. I mean, if somebody wants to live in Old Henderson, trust me, that's where a real estate agent is going to show them. Anywhere in here that meets their certain criteria, price-wise, utility as far as bedrooms, garages, stuff like that. So define your area. That is my area for this first one. We're going to do test 1 first, and I'll walk you through all that. So don't jump ahead. Don't worry about it. We're going to do it together. But right now, I just want to show you, give you an idea of how to collect proper data. So I'm a townhouse, but there are some condominiums that are in this defined area as well that are similar in design, courtyards, small private fenced yard with garages. You do have to be a little sensitive to some of the design, but townhouse and condo is fine. Now I'm going to pull listings, pendings, contingents, and sales. Again, as we've talked about earlier, we only handle the sales in the analysis part for the adjustments. Of course, the listing pending contingent is just that. Until it's closed, really doesn't have any merit when you're talking about extracting adjustments. We want you to get used to loading your listings, pendings, and contingents, because we have some enhancements on deck that will give you an opportunity to look into that data, actually on some trending, some graphical stuff, you know, some comprehensive stuff that you can supply to your end user, and those are on deck. I mean, you know, we're going to throw in a 1004MC, some whiz-bang graphs, stuff like that. So prepare yourself for those enhancements. They're not used in the analysis right now, but get used to putting them in there so that when the other enhancements and features are there, it'll function for you and you don't have to retrain yourself on how to do it. I also want to talk about a little bit limitations. So I mentioned this prior on another webinar. We had a few members that literally loaded up, you know, 3,000-4,000 sales and attempted to do analysis on them, which it would do. It just takes, it's a huge resource hog, because there literally could be billions of calculations, that underlying calculations going into that analysis, and it's not prudent. I mean, when you get into that, I mean, unless you're trying to rope in dang near a whole city for a month or something, or I mean, it's not productive. I mean, you're obviously not using any kind of filtering. So at present, you can load up as many sales as you want, as many listings, pendings, and contingents as you want. You can listings, pendings, and contingents, doesn't matter the number, because we don't use them in analysis. But you could upload, let's say, 3,000 sales. It will accept those. It will give you a just a warning message that will alert you, and I'll show you later in the platform. We'll go into the sub-market, because it'll tell you that you have over 500 sales in your data set. So we have a limit of how many we will analyze at once right now, and that's 500. You can upload 1,500, and when you see that, you need to go into your sub-market filter, apply a few filters, and get your sales down to either 500 or below 500. If you don't do that, the platform is going to analyze the first 500 properties indexed, which may not be the most relevant or reflective of what you're trying to do in your analysis. So again, we can upload them. You can upload them as many as you want. When you go into the analysis part, start filtering them down to 500 or below. Otherwise, it's just going to analyze the first 500 indexed in your data set. In the future, we may allow you to handle more. If you have special needs or requests, you can reach out to us through support, or Michael or myself, and we might be able to address that with you, because certainly we've analyzed thousands of records before. It takes a little bit of time, and it certainly burns up some resource, but it can be done. So if you need that, certainly reach out to us. Give us a little leeway to implement something, and we could certainly probably accommodate you. So again, I selected townhouse and condo. Now, I am a 2-story. So, you know, there are differences in the 1 level and 2-story. So at this point, you know, I would at least select 2-story. Now, I could get squirrely and start. I built in 1981. I'm certainly a 1460. I could get in there and start filtering down like I'm doing a 1004MC. But again, we want a comprehensive statistical analysis of this market. Newer properties, age is going to get measured out in this data set. Livable area is going to get measured out in this data set. Garage differences is going to get measured out. If you want to skin it down, just bear in mind you're probably going to have to do a little bit more work, because the less properties you have to deal with, the more influence those squirrely ones on the outside are to deal with. So, you know, in a big data situation, it's not pragmatic to go clean every record, to go through every one and account for every nuance that might be there. This one's a remodel. This one, whatever, and try to account for all the variances that could be there. It's not pragmatic, and it's not necessary as long as you have a reasonable sample size. So when you get into smaller data sets, just remember, you probably need to spend a little bit more time cleaning that data and going through it and accounting for anything that might be in there, creating any kind of large variances. So I've defined townhouse condo, 2 stories in Old Henderson proper. And all I'm going to do is, looks like I have, well, let's see. We'll go ahead and tell you how many records, even though we'll see it in the platform when we all load the data. So we got 192, including our listings. So we're going to have 132 cells. Definitely a nice, robust set of data. So I'm a Fusion-based product in Glaver. Whatever yours is applies how you get to it. I'll just go to my export. And I'm going to export my file. Most of you used to do this with the 1004MC. You may use Data Master now or something like that. You might have got out of the habit. But I'm just downloading an export file. So I want you guys to all go back to the pairs panel with me now, or the main splash page. So I want you to all be logged in, of course. If you're not, if you fall behind during this, I'm not going to go very fast. But if you fall behind or get lost or forget to change a tolerance or something, which we're going to talk about further, and your numbers aren't looking the same, for those of you with dual monitors that can see me on one screen, play on the other. Otherwise, you can, minimize the screen and have your pairs panel open and just listen to my voice, and we'll walk you through it. But after you're logged in, we're just going to want to go to create a new analysis. So go ahead and enter, enter a file name. I'll test file 1 webinar. Name it whatever you want. Of course, we're townhouse. And then the effective date. If you don't click this effective date, it's not gonna like you. You're not gonna like it. So select that date. Once you've entered a file name, all that good stuff, and selected the date, just click Save. So for those of you who have been using the product or haven't had a chance, after you click Save, it shows you that your detail page is done. That's the title, the effective date, and the property address, which actually not even the address. Don't use that address, any address issue right now, until we do some funky stuff for you in the future. So you have a green check mark. Next in line is data, your blue button. This is where we're going to click change. I apologize if I'm going slow for some of you that have been using it, but bear with us. Some people haven't had a chance to use the map. Their mapping hasn't been completed yet, haven't had a chance. So on this drop-down box on the left, of course, my preferred in my preferences is set already, but I want all of you to select Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors. That's going to be our source in that first drop-down box. And once you do that, I want you to click Upload. So now here's where you're going to have to navigate to the files that we sent to you guys. So go ahead, and I want you to load up test 1. If I can find mine. I got so much stuff. All right. So we're going to load up test 1 pairs, all 2-story town and condo. So we all have the same data. Now again, So once you load the data, you're going to see it probably take a second. If you guys have a slower internet connection, not a problem. Just, enter some message to Michael, give me a little bit more time to catch up with you. I was working with someone who I think might be on with us today who has microwave internet, which is not optimal. It sometimes can be slow. You have to run around the house and beat everybody with a stick that jumps on the internet when you're trying to do something. So if you go a little bit slower, let us know. But of course, like you've seen in the past, maybe you haven't, all the data is tabled and indexed. That's why that mapping we do is extensive. I don't spend much time here. Trust me, you can look at all this data much better in the stats or the submarket change. But if you want, you can get an idea of your data. You can sort it by whatever method you want. If you want to go sales prices just to see, maybe the spread of the data that you're going to be dealing with. You can do also that in the platform later. But this is the data. This is tabling and indexing. We're getting the platform ready to be able to isolate variables and do traditional paired sales. Of course, synthesized with some allowable tolerances, which we'll get into here in a second. So after you've seen the data, you don't have any problem, go ahead and I want you to click in the upper right-hand blue hyperlink that says Analyze Pairs. So, and right now the hamsters are running around on a wheel, and it's going to perform an initial analysis of the data we just uploaded. Now this is an initial. Now I want you guys to understand, you're flexing your statistical muscles here. This is not a huge learning curve. It's nothing that should scare you. But I want you to know that you do not want to get nervous at the first items that jump off the page because there's things that you need to address first. It's a process. Breathe deeply, all that good stuff. So the first thing when the data comes up, I can tell you right now is not significant and does not make a difference is lot size. Now, some of the deeded condos in that area, they have exclusive use to a private courtyard or a fenced area. The townhouse I'm doing specifically has an interior courtyard, private yard. They're all the same. Now, the difference is condos don't record the site sizes the same way that they do on the townhouse because they're more the community owned and managed properties. Plus, I can tell you for a fact, anybody that's in Vegas knows that $9 square foot for dirt out there in Old Henderson's not happening. So first thing you want to do when you look is see what pops up. Now we have some defaults. Bathrooms is a default. Garage is a default. Livable area. Lot size. Year built and distress sales. We also have defaults that if the platform sees them in your data set that we've deemed might be significant, we let them populate. Now, you can get rid of them if you don't want them or they're creating noise, but we're just alerting you that there's something in your data, for example, that's a fixer-upper. Now, if I highlight that and I click on this blue stats tab, it shows me that there's one property out of 140 that was called a fixer-upper. Now, you want to be mindful that that's reflective of one property in the data set as a fixer-upper. But if you look over here, the platform cascaded this property in the third generation during the iterative method against 109 properties. So I assure you that there's weight to this range of numbers between -33 and 47,000. Basically, that's telling you that this fixer-upper, in comparison with the properties that weren't fixer-uppers, was lagging them from anywhere between $33,000 and $47,000, which is pretty high. Now, I'll just let you know my 1,460 square foot townhouse with 2-car garage is selling for $110,000. So that's certainly 40%. Fixer is probably not a good word. It probably should be a little bit more forceful than fixer. I don't even think dump applies. But anyways, that's a different argument. But the first thing that we want to do is lot size. We know that doesn't apply. I just told you it doesn't apply. So the first thing you want to do before you even start paying attention over here is you want to prune out things that are not going to make a difference to you. First thing is lot size. Now, I'm not going to touch fixer yet because we can handle that in 2 different ways. Okay, one way, so that's the next thing I got my eyeball on. Don't get me wrong. Fixer upper. So one of the ways that we could handle it is we could say, you know what, I'm going to remove it from the variable list here. Now, when you do that, of course, as I've said earlier, you're basically saying that is not a significant factor to you. So paired sales is performed on these properties. They're isolated. They must match within tolerances. Anything within 2%, for example, livable area, the platform will say, okay, for all intents and purposes, I'll call those the same. Same thing within the tolerance of age, 4 years, plus or minus. Within that tolerance, I can consider those equal, because at the end of the day, all things must be either equal or within a tolerance, and there must be one difference that they can isolate. Paired sales, traditional paired sales. So if we take this variable out right here at the panel, what we're doing is we're telling the platform that it's not a significant variable, meaning it can cascade that property against everything else to try to measure out and extract variables, adjustments for the other variables. Now but it will still be in your data set. Now the other way is I want you guys to go up here to the upper right-hand change button, submarket change. Now there's a drop down here for add a variable. So we could scroll down to that field, fixer upper. So now we could select no. Now if we select no, we are going to completely remove that record from analysis. You may say, you know, fixer or not, I don't really, it's one record. Even though it cascaded 109 times, it might be very credible. You may say that I don't want to analyze that in the rest of my property. It could be a significant adverse effect, so I'm going to remove it from analysis totally. All you're doing is basically saying this is an outlier for whatever reason. You're in control. Just select no, highlight it blue, and click Save. Now when you do that, another analysis is going to run completely omitting that record that had the fixer status. And I'll show you, I didn't remove fixer from our navigation panel, so when it pops back up, fixer's still going to be in there, but it's going to say no solution. So if you click on that no solution, you'll know why. If you go to stats, again, there's 0 properties now that are fixer upper. And why is that? Because we removed it in the submarket change dialog box. So no solution is going to ever be found. Go ahead and get that out of the way. This is just your initial pruning. Usually when you get, after you've done 10, 15 analysis, maybe 20, you're gonna prune this thing down in the first 30 seconds, and then you're going to start getting to things that matter. So right out of the gate, some numbers that most of you, listen, I'm an appraiser like you guys, 26 years. I get set in my ways. I like to see numbers. I certainly like seeing something that's $5,000 for a garage bay. I'm sure some of you laughing now in other parts of the country. It might be a $20,000 garage bay, depending on your parking. I'd imagine you DC Metro boys, you pay a lot for a garage. So it's all relative. But out here in the desert, yeah, we, as an appraiser, it's one of those wink, wink, you don't want to say book values, but you certainly like seeing stuff like that. Bathroom, that's a little on the low side, but again, we're in a modest townhouse situation. gated, 5,000 for a gate. Hey, you know, again, nothing that's scaring me. But livable area. So I want you guys, if you have a scratch pad, or just make a mental note. Mental note. Now, like I said earlier, statistics is not just, math is not statistics. Statistics is based on math, but math itself is not statistics. So, as appraisers, you're not alone. I did it years and years, even though I probably started to change. Has this platform changed my adjustment patterns? Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Intuitively, as appraisers, we look for comparables that, it's even subconscious. You know what kind of adjustment you're thinking per square foot. You're picking your comps. They're close. They're good comps. But you're intuitively skipping over the ones where there's some variance because you say, that's going to be accounted for. Just make this mental note. And I'll tell you that we've ran literally thousands of data sets. And one thing rings true, at least in the tract environments. Now, when you get out into rural and urban or rural suburban properties where farms, where maybe land is a bigger factor, or you're up in San Francisco Bay Area and you might have a view of the bay, significant items like that may be the primary driver. When you get in a tract environment, livable area, for the most part, after thousands of records, is usually going to run between 50 and 70% of your sales prices per square foot, statistically. I'm not talking about cherry picking a few sales in the tract that, I can show $35 is the difference between them on livable area. But you're not looking at the broader context that the median price per square foot in that neighborhood is $110. So you're throwing out a 30% attributed to livable area. And I assure you that, just make a mental note. When you start to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 70% of your median sales prices per square foot, you've pretty much hit pay dirt. Now, again, my property is $110,000 for 1,460 square foot property on a sale, which is about $75 a square foot. The actual median price in there is about $80 a square foot. I'm actually a low one. I'm an REO, Fannie Mae owned property, even though they repainted, carpet, all that good stuff. Nonetheless, my point of this whole discussion is we just removed a fixer-upper. We haven't even played with a tolerance, which we'll go ahead and play. We might test a bedroom variable or whatever. But I just want to tell you that, right now, out of the gate, my livable area is about 58.75% of the median sales prices per square foot in my subject tract. So that, since it's a primary driver, if you get that one right in the right lane, trust me, the other ones are usually going to follow suit. Now, if you start getting that $25 livable area, I know you're going to love it. Or 35. I don't even use Bob Murphy's famous number. I'll use 35, 40. If you're in the context of $120 a square foot and you find that one, it might get you excited. But if you start looking at the totality of all of the adjustments, and that's what we're doing here too. Not only are we focused on this, remember, we've already reviewed bathrooms is a little light, but we like garage, we like gated. Livable area is pretty good. I don't care about these distressed ones. I'm not using them anyways. And then we got year builds between 1259. Now, some people might say, okay, I don't like that. But just remember, just like livable area, I have 1,460 square foot townhouse. I've got one that's 1,415 square feet, and another one that's 1,500. Now, most of you do the same thing I do. Well, that's a negligible difference. I'm not making an adjustment. Well, the same thing applies with year built. Just because we statistically show you on an average what the year built range of each year is in the market doesn't mean that there's not a negligible difference in an appraiser's professional opinion. So in this market, for example, I'm built in 1981. I probably won't even think about applying an age adjustment for anything within 5 years. Do I need to make a comment? I don't know. I don't make a comment on a negligible difference here. Fannie Mae has for years told us that we're not supposed to make adjustments for things that are negligible anyways. What this does tell you, though, is if you need to rope in something that's, let's say, 10 years newer, well, now this is where this comes in. Now, a lot of you might say, well, that's pretty high. Really? 1981 versus 1991 design standards and stuff like that, you know, it doesn't scare me, a $13,000 to $15,000 swing for 10 years newer of a property. A lot of things happen in that kind of design, and it rings true even going further out down the trough if you think about it. Let's say a 2001 tile roof, all that good stuff. I mean, is it really inconceivable to think that that's worth $25,000 to $30,000 more than my dated, older, modest one? It's not. So just because there's an adjustment there, though, that doesn't negate the your professional opinion of what is a negligible difference. All of my properties are within 1980 and 1983, so they're within a year. I'm not adjusting for that year. That's a negligible difference. The same way I'm not going to adjust for less than 50 square feet on two of the comparables. So don't be confused. You're still the expert and the professional here, and negligible differences are negligible. So, I mean, right off the bat, we could, you know, like I said, that bathroom count, a little bit light. We could highlight it and see if there's some noise going on in here. You can click, once you highlight that variable, and then let's go in over here to the histogram. That's where we can see the recorded adjustments. So we've got a whole lot of outliers over here dragging us down to the low side. Now again, you're going to look at that number and say, golly, how did you have a negative $85,000 for a bath? Because in the iterative method, there's obviously probably one property, might have been a remodeled property, some difference that wasn't accounted for, and the difference gets chewed to the one thing the platform can say is different, and that might have been the bath count. The same happens on this side of the equation. Don't be worried about these because these add balance to one another. But you can always come in here in the histogram and you can see where your central parts of value or your central points of value for the recorded items are at. I mean, here's your high candle area, and you're, you know, off to the side. How many properties between the range recorded? So somebody asked about the sub-market filter. So we went into the change, and we remember we wanted to remove fixer-upper from the analysis completely. So you go to the add a variable, select that fixer-upper, highlight the no, and click save. Just for someone that was trying to keep up. And what that did was, again, we totally removed that property from analysis. It could have been a fire burnout, might not have been reasonable. So what we were saying when we were looking at that histogram, though, is we had some trailing stuff over here to the negative on the heavy. You can see the distribution skewed a little bit. So that's, right now, my filter is on trim 2.5. If you guys need to have your trim set the same as mine, or you're going to get a different number, trust me, you can run this thing a million ways from Sunday, and you're going to get the same number provided you have the same rule set. So if you don't have a filter applied, that's why your numbers are going to be different. But because of that skewness over here, you know, there's nothing wrong with, let's trim 5. Now, when we say trim 5, that's going to trim 5% of the recorded values off of the low side and 5% off of the top side evenly, which is a statistical filter and used by statisticians for years. So don't worry about it. If you want to test to see if maybe a trim 5 lightens up your bathroom a little bit more into reasonable, go ahead. Remember, I mean, we're in a modest area. I don't have any differences in bath, believe it or not. Actually, I do. But it's not that significant, at least on a price point. So you can see that it started to change some of the numbers slightly. We got a little bit more even. We still got some trailing over here to the downside, which is going to skew the numbers. You know, if you want to go trim 7.5 to try to find a sweet spot, you certainly can. There's nothing wrong with a filter. You're evenly trimming off outliers. That's all you're doing. That's outlier management. Now, we didn't change much of the other numbers that significantly, but you can see we gave you a little room to say that, okay, you know, on the low side, okay, I'll call, or on the high side, I can say a bathroom's $2,000. Listen, I'm like you guys. I don't want to play around with $1,700 or $1,800. That's silly. People aren't, you know, even though we live in more of a qualitative environment, we're doing statistics because we do appraisals in a quantitative one. So finding support for variables, evidence that they are there, or to support your cause is what you're looking for. If you don't, let's go ahead and change that to 2. And here, you know, if you want to use standard deviations, all you do is make your selection. This is 2 standard deviations from the central point, depending on what the deviation is in that variable. If you want to know how wide it goes, there you go. The deviation in the standard deviation in the bathroom, for example, is $462. So 2 standard deviations is going out from the central point. You can change that to 3. We don't typically, this is not your regression standard deviation, by the way. Regression throws everything in a hopper and spreads out the distribution to a certain way so that 3 standard deviations ropes in 98% of your data. We are doing standard deviations, applying it, but we haven't uniformly mashed everything together. So again, still a statistical filter. Standard deviations 2 is pretty sensitive. Actually, when you went to standard deviations 3, your histograms aren't as pretty. If you're like pretty, you'll get a pretty one in livable area. Now your distribution is really balanced with the low and the high. There's your high candle, for example. But again, the numbers, you know, were pretty the same on trim, I believe 5 or 7.5 as they are in standard devs 3. Now I'm going to go back to, let's just go back to where we were, trim 2.5, because I don't care about a little bit of skewness. Actually, no. Let's do trim 5. I did want to at least poke my bathroom up above 2,000. Yeah, and that's because you're the professional and you're in charge. You're in control. And as long as the rule sets that you apply are reasonable, that's all that matters. I don't care what a supercomputer comes up and tells you. If somebody takes your data set and follows, actually it's trim 7.5. If they follow the same rules in place in your model, they will generate the same statistical evidence that you are providing. Do not be afraid of a computer. You're the professional. No computer has more geographic competency than you do. It might be able to do math better than you. I get that. But you're the one with the expert opinion. And no matter what method you do, you have to validate the credibility of the output. There's nobody standing over the top of that computer validating its output for credibility. So don't be afraid of that. And there's not probably one person that built it that can truly explain it well enough in a situation if necessary anyways. So again, you're in control of the model. Now I like all these, but you know, just for kicks and giggles, hey, you know, let's get into tolerances. Now remember, so we're at $45. I'm in a median sales price per square foot in my internal tract at 80. So our livable area is about 56.25% of the price per square foot. Again, I told you that 50 to 70 is typically where you're going to fall. And I assure you, when you solve the primary in a tract environment, which is always livable area for the most part, unless you have views to deal with or something crazy, it's going to, if you line that one in, that 50 to 70, all the other things are going to get more manageable. But I'm going to show you when they don't get manageable here in some future ones. but we can play, and I want you to play. This is what you got to do. For example, maybe I just told you I wouldn't adjust for anything within 5 years difference. You know, if you wanted to say, well, I'll give a 5-year buffer and just see how it impacts my variables. So put 5 in year built for tolerance and click update. Now again, you can see when you start to see that you start changing tolerances and they don't impact much of your variables but slightly, you know that you've reached a balance situation. Now, we're playing around because I'm showing you what you can do, some of the tolerances. I want you to do this because as you get more comfortable, you're going to be able to cut and dice faster. I was done with this analysis in a minute and a half. I mean, I kicked out lot size. I kicked out that fixer. I squeezed up my bathroom to $2,000, and buddy, I locked this in. I was done. So we're taking the slow road to China right now, just so that you guys can play along and start testing. Get out there and not be afraid of these tolerances, making differences. Now, solve fully, again, that includes the iterative method. We're going to show you adjust only. That's where you actually solve for a variable and plug it into the model so that all of the variables are statistically impacted by that, which is the way you do it if you want to be apples to apples. Solving once. Now, people always ask, well, what is solve once? Solve once means we do have a limited amount of rules in order to for a variable. For example, if you get one pair, we're not going to rely on one pair. So we do have a certain rule sets in place that you have to meet a certain threshold. But what you say on solve once is once that variable is solved for, I don't want you to go into the iterative method. I just want the first answer. Now, once in a while, if you get a crazy variable, like a bath for $40,000 or something, and you're getting great numbers on all the other variables, so it's that bath. So obviously it's catching noise in the data set. Once in a while you might want to test, okay, well, if maybe it's catching noise in the iterative method, I'll solve once. Solving once gives you the first returned results without going into the iterative method. The iterative method is a refinement tool, and it's your default because it's usually a wonderful tool. Smooths out the values much better. But go ahead and click solve once on bath, for example, and click update, and we'll see what comes out, the first solution for bath. Okay, now I want you to pay attention. That to me is probably a pretty high for a modest area, but I want you to pay more attention to the other variables. And this is why it's important for you to know we isolate these variables. Now, the iterative method, of course, does involve backfilling here and there of the central points of value. But if you look at the other variables, they really weren't impacted significantly. Again, you know when you've reached balance in your model when the majority of your variables are lining up to reasonable, credible results. Now, my personal opinion is this needs to go into the iterative method because it's not refined. This is the first generation result without being plugged back in to isolate the variable and smooth out to cascade through more. If you look over here, solve once, solved in the second generation with 814 pairs. Now, let's drop that back to solve fully and update it, and I'm going to show you what the iterative method does, allowing it to be refined and cascaded through your model further. It solved in the third generation with 3,278 pairs. So the iterative method is a wonderful refinement tool. It's been around forever. It's your default. But once in a while, if all your other items are pretty good and you got one crazy one, you might want to, for kicks and giggles, test a solve once and see if the iterative method is what is actually driving some noise from another variable in there. So we talked about we talked about tolerances. I mean, feel free. We can change this to 3%. Now, when you make a slight change, now we're increasing the number of properties that can be considered similar in livable area. When you start to do that, you might get some different numbers. Sometimes it's slight, sometimes it's significant. For example, our bath count tripled, still to what might be a reasonable number for you, if you like. Garage space hanging tough. Gated went down a little bit. Livable area went up a little bit, but our low still was, our number before was still in that low to high. Again, age started to go up a little bit. To me, that means you can obviously see that we're reaching a sensitivity part here on livable area. I'll tell you, we'll do it one more step. We'll go to 4%, and we'll update it, and I'll show you that you're going to start getting goofy numbers now. And that means because your model's getting imbalanced. Imbalanced, you're finding a sweet spot. Actually, those numbers didn't change much at all. So I'll show you that tolerance. So 4%, you know, anything within 4%, the platform will say, okay, I'll call those equal as long as they're identical and all the other things are within tolerances to extract out a different adjustment or for a different variable. But again, let's get into this other one because we've chewed up about an hour, and this other one is an interesting toughie. We don't want to scare you. But I'm going to put that livable area back to 2, and then I'm going to update it. And I want to run really quick through you to show you what we've done. That you're the professional. We're here to bolster you. I've been an appraiser 26 years, and by God, I'm not going to let anybody say that a computer's better than myself. So I certainly hope you take the same approach. We've got it on trim 7.5 because I wanted to get my bath up to 2,000, and you're in control. Again, that's just trimming 7.5 from both sides of the histogram. We're not doing anything fancy-dancy there. We had some high outliers, and we just removed them. Central point of data never changes. The histogram shows the distribution of the data extracted for that variable. So go to the upper right-hand corner, and I want you to click Validate Adjustments. Now here's the panel this is the precursor to your validation page. Now again, underwriters, God love them. Some of you may have been one in the past. They don't know your business like you do. We don't need any ambiguity. Now this comes into play where maybe you're in a let's say livable area. Maybe your sales price is $115,000 instead of $110,000. And if you show them that range, they say, you know what? You came in at $45 a square foot. If you'd have went to $50 a square foot, which was in that range, you know, it would have supported with a comp or two. Now listen, you're going to apply an estimate of value being pragmatic and real. I mean, if it's a two-part process. We're now finding evidence and support for your adjustments. But that's one part of the process. Now you have the application of those adjustments. If you start applying $52 a square foot for livable area and it renders a tighter adjusted range, well, that's more optimal. On a sensitivity basis, that would be a better number to use. You could come back in here and plug in that 52. But if you start applying, let's say, $45 a square foot, and it renders the tightest adjusted range of values, well, then you don't care what the person says if I'd have used 52, because 45 is where the market's at. I mean, it rendered the tightest optimal adjusted range of value. So they don't need this ambiguity. So you can either accept these central points of value just by clicking Save. If you like playing around with the calculator, I don't, but you can. Otherwise, you can just start assigning numbers anywhere between that range, the low to the high. So for garage bay, I'll do 5,000. For gated, I'll do 5,000 again. Repo and REO, I'll leave those alone. Year built, you know what, I'll say $1,250 a year, because I'm an expert and I've got support for it statistically, so nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And for a bathroom, since I work so hard to get it there, I'll go ahead and I'll call it $2,000. And again, under the model rules that we've got in place, which they will see on this next page. I want you to click Save after you guys have locked in all those numbers, or just click Save. You don't have to touch yours. And in that upper right-hand corner, we're going to go to Validate Adjustments. And this is the report that we included that's worthy for inclusion in your appraisal report. Takes out the ambiguity, shows that you did a comprehensive market analysis, and gives some statistical data points behind the numbers. Shows you your effective data, your analysis, any market rate that you would have applied in this area. I didn't review it with you guys because I'm hustling a little bit. It was pretty bone straight, so I didn't apply one. Any outlier filter that you used. The number of records. We had 140, but we kicked one out because it was a fixer. The range of the livable areas. The lot sizes, which didn't matter because we kicked those out anyways. And your age range. Now, with that data set, under these rules in place, with these variable lists, these numbers will be statistically supported and duplicated. So all it says is $45 a square foot based on 5,113 pairs with a tolerance of 2%. With a big green check mark. And what strategy use? Solve fully, solve once, adjust only, blah, blah. What generation and the iterative method it solved for. And then at the very bottom, we've got some commentary for you that for the end user that talks about it's an analysis model, statistical analysis model. We also have some detailed, you guys need to be able to define pairs. We've got a method doc defined that you can copy and paste. We'll have that loaded to the site in the next day or two that you'll be able to cut and paste and put in your addendum. Describes the entire process, and it's about as easy as you're going to get. We even included a couple of links for the definition of paired sales analysis as well as the iterative method. So that's for your appraisal. Now right now our PDF and PNG printers are not working. So please, our analytics are provided by Google for the histograms and all that stuff. Use Chrome. It's a Google-based. It runs, the performance is way better because the analytics are also from Google. It's going to hog up some of your memory resources if you use another browser. It's a free browser. It's a great browser. But right now, if you see right here, I have this, it's called the Web Page Screenshot Tool. It's free. Literally takes you 10 seconds to download it. But you can click that, place it where you want, drag it down to your bottom comment, click copy, right-click the image and place it right in your appraisal. Now here, just to go quickly before we get into this fun one that I'm going to show you next. So this is for your end user. No ambiguity. This ain't what you want to go though if for some strange reason you have a litigation or some issue. The state calls you. Maybe something else. They just want a full analysis of your work file. Go to the upper blue hyperlink that says View Report and click that. Now this is a work file retention report. This has all the rules that apply to this model. You're the professional. If you validate that these are credible, well, by goodness, you have data. You have enough ammo now in the gun that nobody can argue. But you do have to document your rule set in order for someone to recreate to reinvent the wheel if they have to, by taking your same data set if they apply these rules. This shows you all of the statistical data points, the low, the high, the mid-hinge, the mid-range, the mean, median. This shows everything. This is for your work file. And again, you could right-click in Chrome, for example, print it as a PDF. You could screenshot capture and save it in your work file, and we still put the analysis model comment in there just for you. So we're done right now with test 1. Feel free to come back later, play around with those tolerances. You might not know geographically this area, but for example, I'll go back to the PAIRS page. We all know that things are relative. Doesn't matter. I go to meetings with people in Northern California, South Florida. It doesn't matter. Numbers are similar. And what I mean is you can go into the submarket change box, come back here later. You could be in a totally different area and look at sales prices per square foot, for example. We've got a low of 44 to a high of 118. I mean, that serves, and like I said, probably mid-range in this whole data set, not in my market, or my tract, I should say, is $90 a square foot for livable is about your midpoint. But nonetheless, you know it's all relative. I mean, if you start playing around with tolerances and you're getting a livable area at $90 or 120, well, you could tell. It doesn't matter if you don't live here. You know that that's not going to be reasonable. Same thing if you start getting $32 for livable area because you're playing with tolerances, or you want to do some filtering for sizes, or just play around. You've got a data set now, and numbers are numbers. So, they're always, there's context there for you. It doesn't matter if you're not in this backyard or not. You can play with this data just to get comfortable with these tolerances. This is a pretty good one for you to play on. Pretty balanced. We were making some pretty wide changes. Things were staying along the same. So not a lot of noise in there. But let's go back to just click on the GandySoft, and we're going to go ahead and start on test number 2. And we're going to create a new analysis. And I want you to label this one I'm going to label this one test 2. By the way, when you're on this page, there's a YouTube link right here at the lower right-hand corner. You could click that. It'll take you to our YouTube channel where I have these webinars where we talk about more of the initial solve only. I believe the last webinar, the 2-hour one that we recorded, we did that extensively at the beginning. But I want to get you guys going with another one and show you some functionality that this has. So let's go ahead and label this as test 2 webinar. I'll do webinar test 2. Single family. Let's pick today's date and click save. And we're going to do a custom home. One with all the hair and the warts. Now, before I load up the data, before I have you load up the data, and I'm going to hustle because, boy, we went through to chew up a lot of time. I'm either bloviate too much, and I apologize, guys. I'm trying to. You can come back as many times as you want. I'll start speeding this up. That's why I don't want to get too much into the features anymore. I want to give you guys hands-on analysis. So just so you know, I did a custom home, single story on an acre, built in 2001, right about here. Now, you guys may not know my area, but I can tell you that most of these properties in here, now there's some tracts that are peppered in here. Now, there's this little guard-gated golf course area too, and I'm not including that. We could handle it, we could manage it, but I don't need to have it in there. But I want to show you my area, which is there's some tracts peppered in here, but there's, half acres up to 2.5 acres, equestrian properties. So on this file, I'm going to put in at least a parameter or two. That's my area, though. I'm a single family property. just so we can see, because I've already loaded the data for you, I'm just going to get the solds. I'm a one-story property. I'm a custom home on an acre, built in 2001. So I don't want to add a lot of filters in here because I can filter everything inside the platform. I'm just going to add one, though. I'm going to add one lot square foot. I made that 16,000 square feet or more. Anything less than that's going to be tracked. So basically all I'm doing is I'm just carving out my information to one stories only broad. That's my area. This is the one we're going to get into, where I'm going to show you that I talked about on a prior webinar. So go to the data and let's go, of course, make sure source says Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors. And I want you to upload test 2, 013120115 test 2. And actually, I apologize. You know what? On this one, I did. I put in a plus or minus 25% filter on Livable. But this is a challenging market. I've done this before in a previous webinar, and I'm going to show you guys some tricks. So I knew going in, this custom home did a lot of variation, lot of nasty data. So let's quickly get into it. Let's go into the Analyze Pairs platform, and you're going to see all this garbage that jumps up. There's a lot of stuff in this data set. So again, we got some oddball stuff going on here. Have no solution on bathroom. Getting to the high side on garage for sure. Gated. Guest house is pretty low. I mean, comparatively to the garage, it's all relative. Price per square foot, pretty low. You know, for this area, just so you know, the low in our data set is $94.10 a square foot to a high of $192, with an average and a median, an average of 138 and a median of 137.8. So pretty low. But I want you to look now. Like I said, first thing you do is you want to remove or deal with anything that you see as disruptive. So now the first thing you want to deal with are things that you know. I know right now, I'm on an acre property, that this is goofball wacky. That's not possible, practical, anything you want to say about it. Now, I also have a ton of land sales in here between a half acre and an acre, which I pulled. So whenever you can solve for a variable, you're going to, if you can solve for a variable, then it can use that result. You might have to disclose where you got it, but build it into the model, which might help balance out the remaining stuff. So I just, you know, I'm play with my tolerance a little bit. If I want, you know, go big or go home, we'll do 5% as a tolerance. Tolerances still get addressed. Don't think that you're saying that that tolerance doesn't get addressed. 10% on lot, you know, half acre plus or minus 2,000 square feet might be negligible to you. Again, though, the tolerances still get addressed in the iterative method, so don't worry about this. You're just opening up the carburetor. But this lot size is not, okay, so I know I can solve for this, and I did. I'm going to show it to you. Excuse me, I got to shrink that down. Michael, how's my page size look? Okay, I want you guys to look at this. So I pulled 3 acre, basically acre site sales in that area. I mean, and these were all within a stone's throw of each other. And I pulled 3 half acres. Now you can see a significant price difference for the half acre versus the acres. And of course we know that, diminished return. Land is usually more sensitive in certain markets. This one in the custom market for sure. So here you can see I cascaded all the acres to the half acres. I didn't get into comparing the halves to the halves or the other acres to the acres. I just did the acres to the half acres. And these are the difference I got per square foot. And I got an average and a median of this. So we're talking about $1.50 a square foot for contributory effect in that market is reasonable. That's totally in line. So a half acre difference is about 30 grand. You're not paying, it's not on the cost. We're talking about contributory value. So now I did this. It took me 5 minutes to do. I just did in the function codes, this, that, and the other. And if I was doing this appraisal, which I did in the webinar, I just clipped this, and I threw it in my at the beginning addendum to explain where I got the adjustment for lot size on my model. So I can make the model easier. Now this is a challenge because this is a custom home. I'm getting goofball numbers all over. So first thing you got to do is dive in on what can you solve. Well, I know I can solve this lot size. So I'm going to put in the initial box $1.50, 150. You don't have to put the dollar sign. And on the strategy, I'm going to put adjust only. Now I want to tell you what that's doing. I'm solving for that variable. I'm telling the platform $1.50 a square foot for differences for lot size is the adjustment period. I don't need you going through the iterative method. I don't need you measuring out anything. You're solving for it. Now I have the data to show where I solve for it, and I will. Someone said, how did I calculate? Well, how did I calculate the average and median? I recorded all the differences per square foot: 84, 51, 26, 180, $1.47, $1.22, 318, 287, 263. Those are per square foot for the differences between the acres versus the half acre. That is, you can see, average of D12 through D20. This is the median of this to this. So I had $1.47 a square to $1.64. $1.50 is reasonable. Again, I don't like to play around too much on the calculator, so I don't know about you guys, but I like to round. So we just solved for that. Now we still got a whole bunch of garbage going on here that we don't like. I mean, these numbers are just not doing well at all. This is excessive. But you know what? Also, we didn't go into our market rate, and that's important. Last time I didn't go through that with you. I didn't apply one. But on this one, on a sale price per square foot, yeah, I'm on board. I mean, it looks like an increasing market. So I'm going to apply that rate, not worry about it too much, and click Save. And this is the challenging ones. Now I solved for one thing, but we're not going to spend a day on this. Challenging means after you flex those statistical muscles, we're going to start getting you into groovy town real fast. Okay, so now just by applying that market rate, which adjusted all the comparables from the contract date to the effective date that we're doing this analysis, and then did the adjustments. Now I start to look at it. Now, this was a big help. We solved a primary driver in there. I mean, I'm on an acre. $1.50 a square foot is $60,000 in somewhere in contributory that we potentially solve for. We're making it very easy for the platform now to go back to some of the other variables because we took one out of the mix. We made it easy for it to compare. But you start looking at some of these adjustments. No, not killing me there. Custom home market. By the way, this 3,100 square foot house on an acre is about $540,000 sale price. That, not too bad. Gated, that seems high. That seems high. New construction, hey, $540,000, $530,000 house, 10% for new construction factor might not be a big deal. This seems high. So we got some things we're still looking at that I don't like. We played with our livable area up to 5%. I changed our year built from 4 to 5. We could test it back at 4 if we wanted to just check. And if we still don't have good balance, which I don't think we do, that pool's hanging too high. I don't like it. So we're not going to play too much massaging. We're going to start actually looking at our variable list and starting to dissect stuff. Now I'm not in a gated, and none of my comparables are gated in that area. So first thing I'm going to do is let's tackle this. Now we could remove it, but if we look in the stats, we got 35 of our records are gated. So we could remove this from here, or we could sub-market filter it. So before we get into that one, how about we go to new construction? You know what? New construction is a different beast. My property's built in 2000. I don't, I'll check the stats tab with you, sorry. There's 13 of them. I don't want those in my analysis at all. I just don't think there's anything comparable with 15 years newer than mine. New construction, current design standards, and all that. So I'm going to select new construction. I'm going to select no, and then I'm going to click save. So all we're doing again is we don't have really good balance in a lot of variables here. So we're slicing and dicing and chopping things out. Okay, so bathrooms is a little high. Garage bay, a little high. I don't like that gated. That thing is hanging tough. I don't like it. Guest house. Actually, our property, one of the comps, I should say, had a 400 square foot guest house, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So you know, with a kitchen, all that good stuff. If you did it on price per square foot, which not driving me too crazy right now. I mean, you know, again, you know, we're up in a $530,000 price range. Our property's 3,200 square feet. The median, the average, are $140 a square foot, 138 something, right there. So this range is not necessarily bothering me. That pool still hanging pretty rough. Year built, manageable. So we removed new construction. So that's why there's nothing in there. No more of those, so we can get rid of that on our variable panel, so you don't have to see a no solution. And I have all comps. Again, everything is not too bad. That gated seems really high to me. We're talking a custom home market. So you know what? Let's add the variable gated, and let's just see what happens. I'll put no for gated, and I'll save. I'm going to take those out of the analysis. That might not be good. Okay, so now we got no solution here, so of course I'm going to kick it because we removed it. We removed every property from the analysis that was gated right there, guys. We did that. So of course it's going to say no solution because look, there's no more gateds in here. So I'm going to kick that out of the panel. We don't need it there. But now look what just happened. We made, now this might have seemed complicated to you. It took me 10 extra minutes to solve for my land. But we significantly helped out the process by solving for that. But look what started happening. Okay, I can live with that as a bathroom. Custom home market, $530,000 property, 3-car garage, or 3,200 square foot house, you know, I'm not getting too squirrely of maybe leaning on the low side. $12,000 a garage bay, 13. I can go anywhere from 10,008 to 15. I've got that freedom. Again, one of our comps has a 400 square foot detached guest house with a kitchen and a bath. If you used just the price per square foot right below it, or excuse me, on the livable area, would be about 37,000 without the bath and stuff. So not recapturing obviously as much as the main dwelling. So there's some correlation there with how we usually look at things as an appraiser. So $25,000 to $30,000 for a detached guest house, that's a good adjustment. Again, anywhere between $76 and $108 on the high for that livable area, but we're at 92. 92 divided by the median price per square foot, guys, is 67%. 67%, and we just went over the rule of thumb, 50 to 70. When it's the primary driver livable area, I'm telling you that's where it's typically going to be. Now, if you're in San Francisco and you've got a $3.5 million of your values tied up in a view of the bay, it might be different. Your lot size and view premium might be crazy. But now look at that pool. We're down to $17,000, $21,000 for a pool. Again, you could make the case maybe a little low. We could test. Now, again, it's all about time. I've already spent now 15 minutes on this because I did my land sales, and I'm speed demon. But I could test. I could say, you know what, I'm going to throw in spa. Spa is a tertiary or secondary drive, so sometimes they pick up noise, but sometimes I'll throw it in there just to test it out. And for sure it did. Look at this. It caught $25,000 to a spa, which is actually $5,000, $6,000 more than the pool. Blew out our bathrooms, garage bay. No, we don't want to deal with that. Kick it. Just remember that. Kick it. That's what the ninja training's for. You got to learn how to kick. But again, we've got even if I go low side or high side, 24,000 on the pool in this area, not bad. REO and short sale, again, I'm $530,000, $20,000 off the market for a short sale. You guys are appraisers like me. You see some of these short sales, it looks like they stole the house. Now, they might have had to fight with the bank for 10 months in order to get that deal. But nonetheless, you can see that, you might not use them. Keep them in your model. Because if you ever get a problem or a revision request on CU talking about why didn't you use this property and it's an REO or a short sale, you can say, for God's sakes, I'll show you exactly why I didn't use it. They don't pertain. They're not relevant. And my livable area is $1,100 to $1,300 a year. I'm 2000 built. I'm not going to adjust for anything within 5 years. 1995 to 2005. Maybe 1996, 2004, depends on how I feel that day. But if I did use one that was, let's say 10 years older, 1990, I don't know. You guys are appraisers. Does $12,000, $15,000 for 10 years a difference in design standards and quality? Does that really scare you? Not in the custom market. To me, it doesn't at all. So again, we spent 15 minutes. I can test all I want. But I'm sensitive to the fact that time equals money. So I don't want you spending 3 hours, 4 hours trying to model your adjustment support part of the process. It's silly. Once you get reasonable and credible for the majority of the significant drivers, lock it in. Go on. If you get an attract environment with a healthy data set, over 150, you get 200 sales. Or 300 sales, you're just going to open it up and smile and then print your page. I mean, it's that scary. It's so good you don't even, and you can actually then start testing covered patio, balcony if you want to spend a few minutes, and usually you can get awesome results on those. It's just the law of numbers. But in this one, this is a hard one. Now, I want to tell you, we filtered this down to 62 properties in a sub-market with custom home with guest houses, huge swings and lots from, half of an acre to 2 acres. Let's look at that. We go from 16,000 square foot to, Okay, a little bit over an acre, 48,000 square foot lot. But again, these are custom. These have our age. We didn't put in any age parameters. I mean, we go from 1979 to 2012. And that's kicking out the new construction. And we've got really good numbers in a very challenging market for Las Vegas, at least as far as adjustment support. And I can use these numbers anywhere in between, and they're all reasonable. So guys, that's what this is about. You know what? We're going to have to do the third. Well, either we'll do the third set in the later webinar, or we're going to keep going on more. We'll email you these prior to the webinar next time that you've signed up. We'll get you some test data files going so that you're ready, locked in. We don't have to do it during. Save us a little time, because I'd like to at least get you through 3 analysis, maybe 4. And we're going to keep going through the challenging ones. Remember, I solved for that lot square foot because I knew I could. So if you know that you can either take a hand set of paired sales analysis, or you can pull land sales in a quick amount of time and solve for one of those variables, like I did, now it's built into the model. All of these are statistically based on $1.50 a square foot. So we're not picking and choosing. Your entire model is balanced based on that $1.50 a square foot. And if we didn't do it that way, every statistician in the world would be climbing up and down that we didn't build a statistical model. We built something that allows you to cheat. And that's what you don't have to. Trust me, when you got this power at your hand, you don't need to cheat. You just need to learn how to use it. Now, like I said, if I want to lean to the low side, $80 a square foot, I can. I want to lean to the middle ground on garage, I can. I solve for lot. I'm leaving that alone. If I think pool's more on the upper side of that number, I can lean. Any one of those numbers that, if you want to round it, for example, on the higher side, let's go 30,000 for that detached guest house. It's got a guest house, it's got a bath, it's a kitchen. I mean, it's a fully contained, awesome thing to throw your in-law in, not your spouse's if you got one. And then again on bath, I'm locking those in. Now it's a 2-part process. If I use that property and 30,000 for that guest house adjustment is too heavy, I might go back in there and change that to 25. I have that freedom. So do you. Now here's my sheet I'm putting in there. Nobody's going to mess with me, except they might want to ask me about that. And it says manual adjustments. I included that. I specified. And you know what, guys? Yeah, I'm gonna show them where I got it, and that's what I'm going to show them. And I'm probably going to give them more detail with the parcel numbers and the sale dates over here. But that, it literally took me 5 minutes to do. So that's what you can never do in a regression program. You can't solve for one variable in an environment where they're all interrelated to some degree, and then say, okay, I solved for that one, but we don't need to worry about it, because that's not how it works. You can't do that in regression. You can do it here. We solve for one, and all of these other variables are impacted by what we solve for. And all you do is you click your web page screenshot, and boom. Again, like I said, not too many end users. Here's all your rule sets, your models. If they follow these same rule sets with the same data set, these are the numbers they're going to get. Not a whole lot of people that are going to want to get into a fist fight with you at this point. They know you got data, and they're leaning on something that's a robo-computer that has no idea what geographic boundaries are, has no idea how to define a submarket like you do. None of that. They have nobody standing over that computer saying what's credible. It kicks out a $28,000 bath, and the computer just shakes its head and says, well, it's significant. I don't know. Looks good. That's the difference. This program gives you the ability to be the professional you are. And when they see this data, Nobody's going to argue. Their model's wrong, you're right. So again, back to that same model, we're trying to give the power back to you guys. Before we get off the phone, I just wanted to again tell you, sorry about the mapping delays on some of you. Again, that's why we've got the Pairs Free for Now program going on. We're not even going to talk about, and I'll show you that. If you go to the pricing page, look at this. We're not even going to talk about billing you until at least March 2nd, 2015. You want to tell your friends to hey man, here's a cool tool, or hey gal, here's a cool tool that you can try for 30 days. We realize we don't want you buying this program until you realize the power of what you can do with it and how you can position yourself back in the game as the professional. This can't be automated. This takes your professional expertise, and we realize it takes time to get comfortable with. Like I said, you get to a point where you get a healthy set of data. It takes you a minute. It's just like regression. You get a healthy set of data in regression, it's a minute. The difference is you go to court, you can't defend regression or explain it intricately unless you know statistics inside and out. And you better know every step that went on in the step forward and the step back process. But you can certainly explain paired sales in the iterative method, which is just algebra. And you know what? It's been around since 3000 BC, so why wouldn't you use it? So by all means, we want you to buy this only if you want it at some point. We're going to give you plenty of time to get comfortable. There's tons of people that are calling. We're getting mapped. They're nervous. We don't want to give you 14 days to figure out, is this the one for me? Go ahead and test it out. Play for it. I mean, play with it. You don't have to worry about that trial period. When we think that we've given you enough time, you'll then get an email saying that you still have so many more days before we think about billing you. So just try it out. I'm an appraiser 26 years like you guys. I'm boots on the ground. I don't want you buying this unless you want it. So there's lots of other programs out there. If you want to test them, fine. But in a land of regression, we're the only man standing alone with a program that is absolutely fantastic. You can do things with scenario modeling, solving only, building into your model, things you can never do with regression. And by God, at the end of the day, it's easy to explain. It's paired sales analysis. So I hope you guys have a good week. We're going to, again, you can come back to the webinar tonight. We've got 2 more next Saturday. We might even be doing some, starting some during the week that might be real short, like one analysis where you guys could be working and log in and just listen to me drone on. Hopefully my voice doesn't grate on you too bad. But it was, just take the time, engage, play with those tolerances. If you have a variable, all your other ones are lining up good, get rid of the problem child. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you're supposed to do if it's not credible. That's data. Sometimes data behaves differently. We'll go through this further down the road, but I've got to scoot. Thank you guys so much for coming. Any of you that are still waiting on the mapping, we should have every one of them done by tomorrow and start from scratch. But again, don't worry about billing. You've got time. Just keep using it. Just keep using it, getting comfortable. Come back to these as many times as you want. Send us some questions, support, and we'll try to address it as quick as we can, or at least talk about the topics. Save your questions for the next webinar. Fire them off to Michael, and we'll go through them one by one right then. And go to that YouTube channel link at the bottom of the splash page. At the very bottom, there's a YouTube channel right there. We've got hours of content on here. We've got we've got the first intro one, or excuse me, we've got this is a 2-hour one. That one goes through some hardcore. That's last week. We talk about the initial solve once, solve only, or adjust only. All the different tricks that you can do in this platform. That's the one you want there. The last week's webinar, the live one. We've got another one on here that's an hour and 10 minutes that goes through an analysis but talks about a lot of those features as well. Go through this. We put this content up there. We've got that short boy that most of you watched that was 28 minutes, kind of that sizzle piece. But go through these and flex those statistical muscles. You guys are babies in that right now, and believe me, in no time you'll be a ninja on the PAIRS platform, and you'll be able to defend yourself against anything. So thank you all for coming, and come back as many times as you want. And again, we're not charging, so get used to the program and take your time. We want to help you.